What if I told you that fake ranks are ruining gaming right now and the competitive gaming landscape? And what I mean by that is a viewer recommended to me that I watch and react to actually quite a while ago, so my bad for not getting around to it. This video from Riot August talking about the rank distribution in League, especially compared to other games. And he really brings up two main issues, which is number one, other games, especially mobile phone games, are allowing people to rank up for free, maybe throughout their entire rank system, but especially in early ranks. And it's hard to compete with games like that because when players just want to feel like they're making progress and ranking up, it can be difficult for a real competitive game that's going to keep somebody in a low rank for a long time because they're genuinely bad at the game. It's going to be difficult for a game where it takes 500 games to get to silver or to gold to compete with a game where you can just instantly get the gratification of going up without making any progress whatsoever in a very short period of time. So this is one issue, is games that are allowing players to rank up quicker than they actually deserve by basically saying, we're just going to have a fake ranked ladder in the very low ranks where you can just climb for free automatically. Games like Hearthstone have this where you can't lose any rating in bronze. Plenty of phone games do this, where you're just automatically going to make progress over time, as he mentions. And of course, you're even starting to see this in other major kind of competitive PC online games. And so that's kind of a huge issue, right? And then the second issue is that the rank distribution itself is actually skewed in favor of players just automatically being higher ranks. So for example, what it means to be gold in League might mean that you're in the top 40% of players in the game, whereas in another game, like even other Riot games like TFT or Valorant, it may mean that you're in a much lower percentile and you're actually only in the top 50% of players, or you're actually only in the top, 40% or not 40% or 60% of players, and you're only better than 40% of the players in the game. And so what they've done with these games is, especially more modern ones, is they keep trying to one-up each other by making it easier to climb rank for free in the beginning so that you get addicted to continuing to play their game and play their ranked ladder, and continue to invest in the game instead of quitting because it's too hard in the beginning. And then they also make it easier for more players to hit a higher rank. So I'm not going to react to the whole video because that was a disaster the first time around I tried to do that. I yap way too much to react to somebody else talking, but those were the two main points. And I want to take a look at something that they even tried to do with League. So back in season 13, they actually tried to radically change the rank distribution of League and changed what it meant to be different ranks in League by essentially trying to inflate a lot of players out of bronze and silver and into gold and platinum and the new rank of emerald, to push people up, give them a false sense of progress, but more importantly, to modernize the rank system for League to actually compete with these other games. Now, part of me wants to say, as a very competitive player who wants the rank ladder to be as competitive as possible and likes the idea of there being continuity between what it meant to be gold in season 3 and what it means to be gold in season 15, the reality is that that ship has already sailed, because back in 2013, Riot tried to change the rank distribution. So what we need to talk about here is what's going on with this, what we're looking at here, and how it compares to other games and what it means. So number one, this was a goal, not what actually ended up happening. Riot kind of countered their own goal here by both changing the ranked ladder so that it's supposed to distribute players this way, but also, and let's not get that twisted. Like, let's understand exactly what we mean by this, because there's a lot of players watching who aren't super familiar with the ranked ladder and stuff like that, and may not understand the details of that. So when a rank distribution is set up like this, it's not really going to, basically what it's saying is that, so I'm trying to get away from this concept that it's artificially forcing you into a rank. But basically the idea would be that in order to get to, let's say, silver, right, in the old rank distribution, since there were about 25% of players in bronze and 5% of players in iron, you would have had to be better than the bottom 30% of players to get to silver. In the new rank distribution that they were aiming for back in 2013, rather than having to be better than the bottom 30% of players, if 4% of the players are in iron and 15% are in bronze or so, or 16% are in bronze, you only need to be better than the bottom 20% of players to get to silver. So it's not that you can't get to these ranks, it's just that the threshold for getting there's always been a certain threshold for getting to a certain rank. You have to be better than a certain percentage of players. And so it's not just about the face rank, it's not just about the LP. What League and other ranked games are ultimately about is a percentile, or being better than a percentage of players. And you have to actually improve faster than those other players and win games to prove that you're better than those other players to get to a certain rank. So there's nothing really rigged about a game having a rank distribution. Every game has a rank distribution. The thing that's rigged is artificially faking a rank increase for players when they didn't actually get any better at the game, and when their percentage or percentile didn't actually change. And so making a silver player think that they went from silver to gold or from silver to platinum even, when they actually didn't, I think is a really deceptive practice that's really unhealthy for a competitive game. And it obviously also devalues what it means to be platinum if the bottom of platinum is equivalent to what used to be silver, compared to what it is now. So let me pull up another chart that I don't actually see here. Let's see, League rank distribution. Let's see. So this is the image that I want to take a look at as well. So if this chart here had come to fruition, and we'll talk about why it didn't, but had it come to fruition, the numbers suggested that a silver player would actually be able to move all the way into platinum, and that gold players would move into platinum and emerald, and that platinum players would all move into emerald, and bronze players would move into silver, or at least some would, right? Now, obviously, not every individual player is going to line up. So you see, for example, that all of gold is silver. This is just the way that the math works out in terms of the percentages. Obviously, you're going to have some gold players that end up, staying in gold and getting stuck back there, or just don't play the game very much. But obviously, this didn't end up coming to fruition. So why is that? The reason why this didn't work the way Riot intended is because even though they adjusted the ranked ladder so that these would be the distributions, they reset people 6 times in ranked between the start of split 1 here in season 13 and the start of this split, or this season, which is just going to have the 1 reset in season 15. So we had split 1 and split 2 of season 13. Then we had split 1, split 2, and split 3 of season 14. And now we're on our 1 reset for season 15. So we've had 6 ranked resets in the short time of 2 years. And so obviously when you have 6 ranked resets in the span of 2 years, what you're going to do is you're going to, yes, this new rank distribution suggests that a lot of lower ranked players in iron, bronze, and silver should be making huge progress and climbing for free. But when you reset their rank 6 times back to where they were, they don't have time to make any progress. So they haven't gotten to this new rank distribution yet. So what's really interesting is I've talked about this ranked distribution change before years ago, and it's about to rear its ugly head back into the game, because what's going to happen is that this has been not a reality. It's been slowed down and counteracted by how many ranked resets they've done. But now that we're only having the 1 ranked reset a year, in a year or 2 from now, I bet that the rank distribution will look very similar to what Riot's goal was 2 years ago when they implemented this rank distribution into the ranked ladder. So, what is the current rank distribution, and how does it compare to other games? Because obviously when Riot does a rank distribution change like this, obviously it does mean that silver players are supposed to be climbing into gold and platinum for free, that bronze players are supposed to be climbing into silver for free, that gold players are supposed to be climbing into platinum for free, and platinum players are supposed to be climbing into emerald for free, etc. And that's obviously, what Riot August was talking about in the first part of the video in terms of letting low elo players climb for free, even though they're not getting better at the game, to keep them around and interested in playing the game and retain those players so that they keep playing League. And obviously, I think that that's a bit unhealthy. But when you understand that every other game is doing that, but worse, you start to understand why Riot is in between kind of a rock and a hard place on this one, and why I'm so lenient on them for doing something so drastic like this. Because unfortunately, the reality is that, well, we can sit here all day and say Riot should have never done this. The rank distribution should be the same all of the time. If League dies because they're non-competitive with other games, that's an even worse issue. So they've got to do what they've got to do to a certain extent, you know. But obviously, it's not great. So what is the current rank distribution looking like? So unlike, you know, ending up like this, what the current rank distribution actually looks like is this. So we're going to see in the top ranks, right, there's obviously such a small percentage that it's really not very big, but we see 0.02 in Challenger, 0.06 in Grandmaster, and 0.6 or so, 0.59 in Masters. So you've got a little bit less than 1% in Masters Plus, and then we've got 2.7% in Diamond. So we've got about 3 to 4% in Diamond Plus. If we go back and we look at this, we can see that under the old distribution, there was about 3% of players in Diamond Plus, and they were also aiming at about slightly lower. They wanted low-ranked Diamond players to go to Emerald, and they wanted Apex players to go to Diamond. But for the most part, right, we're looking at a small percentage anyway, so it's a little bit hard to tell on a chart like this, but they're mostly around where they should be. Now we start getting into where we can see some differences. Emerald was supposed to be around 16 or 17% of the player base. It was a new rank coming into the game back in the Season 13 Split 2. So let's see what they've got. It's actually only 8.4% of the player base, and added with the 4% that are above it, it represents about the top 12% of the player base. Yet we can see here, it was supposed to be not 8.4% of players in it, but nearly 16 or 17% of players. So there's way less players in Emerald than Riot wanted or anticipated. And again, the main reason why there's not enough players in Emerald is because they're in these lower ranks that we haven't gotten to yet, because there were so many ranked resets that people just haven't had the time to climb to Emerald, even though they're probably capable of it. And the rank system is probably making it easy for them and encouraging them and giving them the LP gains that make it possible for them to get to Emerald fairly easily. Now, when we look at, Platinum was supposed to be 20%. And so it was supposed to, if you add all these together, probably represent the top 20 plus, let's call this, 16 would be 36, plus 4 down here would be the top 40%. So Platinum was supposed to be 20% of the players, and Platinum Plus was supposed to be the top 40%. Yet we see here, instead of 20% of players in Platinum, we have only 11% of players in Platinum, and instead of Platinum Plus representing the top 40% of players in the game, it's actually only representing, again, we had about 12 here and 11 here, so we have about 23, only about the top 23% of players instead of the top 40% of players. Moving on to Gold, Gold was supposed to contain about 17% of the players in the game, again, added on to or Gold is the top 17% of players currently. So that makes Gold, we were at, what were we at here? 12, 23. So Gold is actually the top 40%, and 17% of players are in Gold. Well, there was supposed to be 20% of players in Gold, so we're a little bit less still in Gold as well, which means there's going to be a lot more players. If there's less players than they wanted in Emerald, less players than they wanted in Platinum, less players than they wanted in Gold, can bet there's going to be a lot more players in Silver, Bronze, and Iron than they wanted. And again, that's because these players are getting reset, so, and these players play the least amount of games, especially when they're getting reset a lot. So these players just haven't had time to keep up, especially when they're the players who are putting in the least number of games. So Gold players supposed to be 20% of the player base. Instead, it's only 17%, and it was supposed to be, the top 60%, but instead it's actually the top 40% in reality. So obviously, as far as this, there just aren't as many people as Riot expected to be in Emerald, Platinum, and Gold, and that's because they did too many ranked resets. But now that there aren't as many ranked resets, we should start to see that normalizing. So just taking a look at the last couple of ranks here, 19% of players are in Silver, another 19% of players are in Bronze, and a whopping, probably the biggest it's ever been in a long time, 19% of players are in Iron. Right, and that should tell you something about how hard it is to rank up in League and how competitive the ranked environment is in League, where getting to Gold means that you're better than 60% of the players in the game. Keep that in mind when we compare that to some of these other games here in a second. So, again, when we were looking at this, they wanted... Iron was 6% of the player base. They wanted it down to like 4%. Instead, nearly 20% of the players are in Iron. So it's actually increased the number of players in Iron dramatically. And again, this is because they did 6 resets in 2 years, which was crazy to do. And they actually did so many resets that they countered their own goal with the ranked ladder in the opposite direction by skewing the rank ladder lower by resetting people's ranks so much that they just went lower and lower and lower every split without any time to climb. Now, the good news is that when your ranked gets reset like that, your MMR stays the same. So many of these 20% of players who are in Iron actually have good MMR that is still back when they were in Bronze or in Silver. And it's okay that you're in Iron when 20% of the players are in Iron. It doesn't mean the same thing as it used to mean, right? It's fake. So being in Iron today is a lot less bad than being in Iron back in Season 13 Split 1 when only 6% of the players were in Iron. It's completely different. It's the equivalent of being like back then, in like Bronze 1 or something like that. And obviously there's a big difference between being Bronze 1 or Bronze 2 and being like Iron. So don't be too hard on yourself and understand that you will climb and that you can climb because your MMR is still good, right? Just because your ranked was reset doesn't mean your MMR is bad. Your MMR is still back where you were in Bronze or Silver. Unless you're actually genuinely like losing way more than you're winning on a large sample size of games. Even if you've started out with a bad split and you've lost 5 more ranked games than you've won, or even 10 more ranked games than you've won, it's enough to move your MMR from Bronze 1 to Bronze 2 or Bronze 3, but it's still not, you're not actually Iron. So what you have to keep in mind is that the reason why you're in Iron or in Bronze is probably because of the massive number of ranked resets, and that if you continue to play the game or if you come back to the game, you will still climb because your MMR is still good. It's still where it was, even if your face rank says you're in Iron. Your LP gains will be very good, both at the start of the split because your MMR is still fine. And the ranked ladder itself is trying to move you into Bronze, into Silver, into Gold, into Platinum for free. You just have to play the game. Problem is that if you were playing the game 10, 20, 30 games a split, which a lot of casual Iron, Bronze, and Silver players were, with a reset coming every 20 or 30 games, you're just never going to make any progress in the game. And that caused a lot of people to quit the game or put them off of the game in the first place, which was a huge mistake by Riot, obviously. But I'm telling you now that there's only this one ranked reset this year, and you have the entire year to climb. And even once there's the ranked reset at the end of this year, hopefully, of course, the plan is that there will from now on continue to only be one ranked reset a year. It's going to go slow enough that over the next year or two, you will definitely have time to climb to much higher peaks and much higher ranks than before, especially because the ranked ladder is literally set up for you to do that for free without you even necessarily getting better at the game. So, with that being said, that's what's going on with the current rank distribution with League. These changes from back in Season 13 are going to rear their head again because they're actually going to come to fruition this time around in this season because we're back to the one reset instead of this having been delayed for 2 years essentially by them doing 6 ranked resets. So, that's what's going on with League. Let's talk about the second issue that he mentioned, which is, so not only are other games allowing these low ranked players to climb for free. And so Riot obviously adjusting their ranked ladder as a response to that, obviously trying to allow low ranked players to climb for free just by changing the percentiles and what it means to be each rank. I think that that's a little bit frustrating as a player who shows, I think a certain level of respect to players for getting platinum and knows how hard it is to get to gold for the first time, to get even to silver for the first time, or to get to platinum for the first time. It's a little bit annoying to me as a very veteran player that what it means to hit platinum is changing. Because when people look at the number of games it took me to get to gold for the first time, or the number of games it took me to get to platinum for the first time, I think that they're going to look at that and say, wow, that took a lot more games than it took me. You must really suck. And that sucks for me as a player because what it meant to be that rank back then is being devalued, right? And I also think that Riot August said in the video that he thought that low ranked players are looking for a feeling of getting better at the game and making improvement. And that high ranked players want to actually get better and improve, and they can tell whether they're actually getting better or improving. And while I sort of want to agree with that, I think it's a little bit condescending. I think that low ranked players who are trying to get better at the game actually do genuinely care about improving and getting better at the game. Like if you're watching my videos and trying to learn concepts from me about the game and stuff like that and keep up with what's going on, like you probably do genuinely care about getting better at the game. And so for him to say that, low ranked players just want to feel like they're getting better at the game is not really true. I think low ranked players who are trying to get better at the game genuinely care about getting better at the game and getting to a higher rank and that meaning something. I think if you ask a lot of low ranked players, would you want to get to the next rank for free and it just means less, I think they would say like that's kind of ridiculous as well. So that sucks, but I also understand Riot has to compete with these other games. And at the end of the day, this is a ship that sailed a long time ago because this was a change that was made in League, 2 years ago and has been in the game ever since. And it is what it is. So that's just what's going on. Now, when we think about the second problem, which is that other games have a skewed rank distribution that, kind of favors more players getting to higher rank, let's look at some other games, including even Riot games, and just take a look at some of their rank distributions. So here, for example, I want to show that with TFT, being masters in TFT, 2.1% of the players in TFT are masters, compared with 0.6% of players in League. And there's a fairly similar number. I mean, they're both ultra small. 0.028 in Challenger in League, 0.02 in TFT. So there's slightly less people in Challenger and TFT, but when we're talking about these percentages, we're talking about very small numbers. There's 0.067% in Grandmaster versus 0.04. So again, a little bit less in Grandmaster. But at the end of the day, when we're looking at these, we're talking about 2.7% of players. Actually, it's 2.16% of players in Masters Plus in TFT, yet we're talking about less than 1%, like 0.68% of players or something like that in League. So obviously there's like nearly 4 times the number of people who are in Masters in TFT or higher than there are in League. Same thing with Diamond. You see that, we already established that there was way less people in Masters Plus, but then you've even got 2.7% of players in Diamond, whereas in TFT, 5% of players are in Diamond, plus those extra players in Masters means that, Diamond Plus is only like the top 7% of players or so in TFT, whereas Diamond Plus is really like the top 3 or 4% in League. And so obviously you have problems there. You take a look at a game like, Valorant, and you look, and there's 1% of players in Iron 1, 2% in Iron 2 for 3% total in Iron so far, and 3% of players in Iron 3. So there's about 6% of the players in Valorant are in Iron, yet in League, 19% of the players are in Iron. Okay, here we've got Hearthstone. Hearthstone's a little bit hard to compare because it's, kind of apples and oranges, and I've got a really old chart here. But, we can compare even between Hearthstone in 2014 and 2019 and see that way more people are higher rank nowadays than they used to be. Like 6% of players in rank 1 through 5 as opposed to 2% back then. And we're seeing 12% of players in rank 6 to 10, as opposed to 5% back then. Rank 11 through 15 is 19% instead of 17.5%. And there's way less players in the lowest ranks in the game, which is 16 to 25. It's also worth noting that when I hit Legend in Hearthstone, just about a month ago now, I mentioned in that video talking about hitting Legend in Hearthstone that I ended up being, when I hit Legend, about rank nearly 11,000. I was like 10,000 something. And that's just crazy, because if you compare again, the top rank in League is Challenger and there's 300 players in it, yet the top rank in Hearthstone has 10,000 players in it instead of 300, and there's less people playing Hearthstone than there are playing League. So as a percentage, it's even worse. The raw numbers sound bad enough, but as a percentage, it's even worse, because you may only have 100,000 people playing ranked in Hearthstone total. So if that's the case, it's like Legend in Hearthstone might be the top 10%. Now this chart doesn't show that, but there was another one where I saw the number of players, but we don't need to get into all of that. So obviously you have ranks like Valorant and TFT and Hearthstone, where you can see that Hearthstone has eased up on their ranks over time. So has League back in season 13, and newer games like TFT and Valorant, even though they're by Riot, have completely changed what it means to be masters and stuff like that. Which I think is really disingenuous, because when you have a friend who's master in TFT, they're going to think, and kind of rightfully so, because they're being deceived by Riot, that, hey, if I'm masters at TFT and you're masters at League, we're kind of the same. Like, sure, we're playing different games and there's different skills involved and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, if I'm masters in a game and you're masters in a game, we're basically equivalent. But that's not really true, is it? If it's 4 times harder and there's 4 times less players in League masters than there is in TFT masters. So actually what it means to be, what it means to be masters in TFT is more like equivalent of what it means to be like Diamond 3 or Diamond 4 in League. So that's an issue. Now let's compare it to some more modern games that are potentially even worse. So I haven't looked these up, but let's look up like Marvel Rivals. Okay, so let's take a look. So obviously there's this is going to skew things quite a bit. So there's a huge percentage of players in Bronze 3 because you start the game in Bronze 3. So it might be like everyone, there is no getting placed into Silver or Gold. Everyone starts the game in Bronze 3. That's why this distribution is insane. But we might want to compare maybe the higher ranks, and we might want to also compare maybe a more normal rank, like we can compare like Silver here, for example, to League. So we obviously have this big outlier here where 21% of the players are in Bronze 3, but then we see 5% of the players and 4% of the players in Bronze 2 and Bronze 1. So I'd say that if it wasn't for all of the players and this outlier artificially starting in Bronze 3, I would say that you would see around these same numbers, around 5 and 4% for Bronze 3. So, we'll get into the actual numbers that can be confirmed, but I would say that you're looking at around 15% of the players in Bronze, which would be the lowest rank, if it wasn't for this outlier situation that we have going on here with all of the new players who have only played like their one placement game or something like that and then quit the game or whatever the case may be. I think you'd see about 15% of players in Bronze. You can see here that we've got a little bit under 15% of players in Silver. So there are not very many players in Bronze and Silver except for this outlier because people are getting placed there. But then, in Gold, we have, again, close to 15%, but a little bit under 15% of players in Gold. So again, when we go back and think about League, right, well, Iron doesn't exist in Marvel Rivals, And then bronze, if it wasn't for this outlier, has less people than bronze does in league. Silver has less people in silver than league does. Gold has less people than league does in gold. So where are all of those players going? They're going to platinum, where there's again about another little bit under 15% of players. If we go back and we look at league, there were only 11% of players or so in platinum. So we were starting to get much higher up. And then here in Diamond, you can see that Diamond also has around 15% of players. And, you're also seeing more like 10% of players in Grandmaster. So what it means to be Grandmaster in a game like Marvel Rivals is completely different than what it means to be Grandmaster in League, right? So you're seeing that the average rank here, whereas like ignoring this shenanigans, what are we looking at here in terms of like the top ranks? So there's 1,000 players in one above all, whereas again in League you only see the top 300 players in a region in Challenger. So you're already seeing over 3 times as many players in the top rank in Marvel Rivals as in Challenger and League. When we look at a rank like Eternity, there's 4,000 players as compared to the second highest rank in League is Grandmaster with 700 players. So you're seeing again like more than 5 times the number of players in Eternity as there are in GM and League. And then Masters, there can be more players in Masters in League, obviously, but Masters in League, we know right now, is currently like the top 0.68% of players or something like that. So if we go back to Marvel Rivals, we've got, we're already up to 1% here with Eternity. So Masters in League is already better than being in the like Eternity in Marvel Rivals, because this is the top 1.02%, whereas Masters in League was the top 0.68% of players. Master Plus was the top 0.68% of players. And then you've got a whopping, like, in addition to this 1% in One Above All and Eternity, you've got 2.68% of players plus another 1% here. So you probably got about 4% here, maybe like 4 or 5% in Celestial. And 4 or 5% in Celestial is equivalent to like somewhere in Emerald in League, right? So again, like when we look at these ranks, they're just super deceptive because we're looking at something like, just something ridiculous. Like we're looking at like Celestial is equivalent to like Emerald. Grandmaster is probably equivalent then to like Platinum and Gold. So let's go backwards here and keep working on this. So 1% plus we were calling Celestial about 5%. So Celestial Plus is the top 6%. Grandmaster 1 would be the top 8%. And then adding another 3 here, Grandmaster 2 would be the top 11%, and Grandmaster 3 adds another 5.5%. So we'd be looking at the top 16%. So where was the top 16% in League? Somewhere in Platinum. So again, to go back to this, Celestial is equivalent to Emerald in League, Grandmaster is equivalent to Platinum, Diamond is equivalent to Gold, and Platinum is equivalent to like Silver in League. Like, you get my point, right? These new games especially, and the more casual they are, the worse it gets, set up their rank distribution specifically to devalue what it means to be Gold, what it means to be Diamond, what it means to be Grandmaster. They're making up all these new words, and the whole thing is fake. So understand that when you're comparing ranks across games, what matters is the top percentage of players that you're in, what percentile of players you're in. not just what the name of the rank is. They've done this intentionally as a deceptive practice to make it seem like you're better at a game than you are, so that if you get to Diamond or something in Marvel Rivals where you're stuck in Gold in League, you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm so much better at Marvel Rivals and I'm so much closer to being like really good or pro at Marvel Rivals, should probably just quit playing League and play Marvel Rivals. But in reality, this is a cheap trick that's devalued what ranks mean in games, and it's getting worse the newer the game is, and the less competitive the company is and stuff like that. It's just getting worse and worse, and it forces games like League to do this stupid stuff that they did back in season 13, where League is forced to adjust their rank distribution. Otherwise, people are going to quit their game and not play it, because when they're bronze in League and gold in every other game for free, they're going to think, well, why play League? Or I'm not having as much fun playing League, or League's rank system sucks and I'm good at every other game but League. So there must be something wrong with League's rank system. And it's just deceptive, right? And it's frustrating, because when I hit Legend in Hearthstone, right, it felt really good. It's like, wow, I'm the highest rank in this game. I've hit the top rank in 3 games. But have I really, when being, the top player in Hearthstone in the way that I was with PUBG, where I was ranked like 198 in PUBG, I've been like ranked 230 in NA when I peaked in Challenger. So I have not been anywhere close to top 200 players in Hearthstone, right? I was top 10,000 to 11,000. That's not even close. They're really not quite equivalent. Now, again, had I kept playing, maybe I would have gone higher. I just stopped when I got Legend and it was the end of the month, and they reset their rank system every single month. So that didn't really provide me enough time to play any further and see where I would have gotten to. I had a 60% win rate on 200 to 250 games played. So I think I could have gone higher for sure in Hearthstone. Maybe I would have made top 200 if I kept playing for a lot more time. But, it's hard to say. So I guess what the takeaway from this should be is that games are faking their ranks. It's super frustrating when you're, trying to compare across games, or you have a friend who plays a game like Halo or Marvel Rivals, or maybe Call of Duty has rank now, I don't even know, but they play one of these games and they're like, hey, I'm diamond at this game, or they think that they're just as good as someone who's diamond in League, and they're just not equivalent at all, because what it takes to be diamond in League, or what it takes to even be just platinum or gold or whatever in League, or even silver, is frankly much harder than it is in any of these other games. And so, put some respect on the name of League players, and hopefully these companies can stop their rank wars. Otherwise, what we're going to end up with is every rank, ladder is going to start you in Grandmaster, and you're going to be, Grand General, Nova Supreme, Super Challenger, Immortal, Legend, right, at the top rank. And it's just going to get ridiculous. So at a certain point, it has to stop, right? We need to have some realistic expectations across games on what it means to be a certain rank. With that being said, I hope that you found this information somewhat interesting or helpful. And now you know what's going on with the rank distribution with League, and what's going to happen over the next year with the rank distribution or so. And with that being said, good luck in solo queue. You're going to need it, because it's a lot harder than these other garbage, for fun, Mickey Mouse casual games. So good luck in solo queue, and have a wonderful day.